welcome back to the studio. My name is Melissa and today is our third version of a Christmas headband with our baubles or snowballs, depending on what you want to call it. This is the yarn that we're going to be using. It is another bling yarn called Universe, and as you can see on the label here, it is 98% acrylic with 2% polyester. Polyester is what makes the bling or the sparkles. Hopefully you can see the sparkles there. We are combining these two together. I got them from Hobbi. I've had the whole range. However, it is really thin yarn. As you can see, it is super thin, and you're more than welcome to do this project using just one ball. I am not that good eyesight anymore, so therefore I'm going to use two balls of yarn, put them together to make a thicker yarn. So we'll see what the effect has on doing that, and that way I can actually see it and it's thicker and it won't be so thin. This is great yarn if you want to just do one strand to do things like a flowing shawl or something like that. It comes up beautifully, but I want a thicker yarn, but I want this bling, so therefore I'm putting the two together. Now if you are interested in getting these from Hobbi, then you'll see whole color range when you look on the website. It is a very fine yarn. It needs a 3.5mm hook, and this is 100 grams, and you can see the meterage is huge. It is 462 meters, 505 yards. So it's a very long ball of yarn. When it does work up, it works up beautifully. If you've got great eyesight, brilliant, use just one ball. Otherwise, because I'm putting the two together, we're not going to use a 3.5mm hook. The hook I am going to be using is my 5.5mm hook, and this is from Furls. And I always start my chain with a hook size up, so this is my 6.5 from Furls as well. And yeah, that's pretty much all you'll need. So let's get this project started. Once you have found your two ends, put them together, do a slip knot, grab your larger hook, which is a 6.5 for me, chain as many chains as you require to put this chain around your head comfortably. Generally for me that's around about 65, but let's see. There is my chain, and it ended up being 60 stitches for me. So just make sure when you wrap it around your head, it's not too tight and not too loose, but just right. If you are able to, line it up and lay it flat so it's not twisted, and we're going to be joining it together. Well, I was going to be joining it together. This yarn has made it so it's really twisted and I can't seem to straighten it out. So I have a trick for this. What I'm going to be doing is doing a next row and I'll join from there. But what I want to do is change my hook to my smaller hook, which is my 5.5, chain 1, and then I'm working half double crochets in the back of each loop. So we're going to be missing this first one. Turn it over. So you've got the V's on the front there. When you turn it over, you've got the lumps on the back, and we're working into the back. So we're doing half double crochets this first row. So you go yarn over into the loop on that back of that stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over into the next stitch, so into the back of that stitch, through that loop, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over into the back of that stitch, that loop, grab a yarn, pull it through, grab a yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. Now continue, see what I mean? Twisty. Continue doing this all the way down till you get to the end, and I will meet you back at the end of this row. We have finished the first row, and lovely and blingy. I love the look of it. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. What we need to do now is lay it out flat, because we need to get it flat and it's all in one, all very even, and we're going to join it together. So we're going to bring the two ends together. So my advice, because if you're left-handed that's going to be fine, but I'm right-handed, so I'm going to flip it over and bring it up together and put my hook in the first stitch of that row, and then where's the end of the yarn, if I can find it? And I'm just going to, looks not good. Just do a slip stitch, chain one, and it looks like I've got a big gap there, but don't worry about that, because we're going to sew that up using the tail that we left. Now we're going to be working in the round for a 12 additional rows. Well, that works good for my head, so 13 rows in total. However, if you need more rows, do more rows. If you need less rows, do less rows. Whatever fits comfortably around your head. So the next row is all half double crochet. So you're going into that first stitch just there. So yarn over straight into that first stitch. Grab your yarn, pull it through. Grab your yarn and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. And just keep repeating your half double crochets in each stitch all the way around. Now when you come back to the beginning here, I will show you what to do next, but just keep working around until you get there, and I'll meet you back here when you're there. At the end of the row, so just make sure it's not twisted, it's all even, all going around in one direction. If it is twisted, sorry, you'll have to rip it apart. Also, I would suggest that you put this around your head and see if it fits comfortably around your head. Once again, too big or too small, sorry, you'll have to rip it apart. Okay, so in the last stitch, just half double crochet and then keep going. Now at this point you could put a stitch marker here if you want to know where the start or the end is. However, I don't think you need to, because it's pretty obvious where the back of the work is going to be, because you've got your tail and you need to sew this up at the end. So you can just keep going and you don't need to mark where it is, because we know where it is. So what you're doing is just keep going around and around and around until you have 13 rows, or as many rows as you need to fit over your ears nice and comfortably. For me, that is 13 rows, and if you are following along with me, you will be doing 13 rows, and I will meet you back here after you have finished your 13 rows. Once you have finished doing your set amount of rows, in the end I ended up doing 14. I did an extra row than I would normally do. I just felt it seemed better for this one. So I did 14 rows. So once you've done your amount of rows that you need, leave a bit of a tail, get your scissors, snip it off, and then just slip stitch that into the next stitch. So just go straight into the next stitch. Grab a yarn, pull it through that loop on the hook and pull straight through. Now at this stage, sew that in at the back. and snip that off. Go to the other end where we started and sew that bottom up. So what I generally do is go into that first stitch of that chain row, go straight under, and go back into where you were. So you look like you're trying to create another stitch here. There we go. And then I put the thread so it's back at the back, and then I just neatly sew this together. And when you're happy with that, snip that off. Now sometimes with this yarn you'll get loose threads like that there, so I just snip that off. It's not going to affect it at all. And you can tell that this is the back. Yes, even though you've done this neatly, you can still see, yes, there's a little blip there. Yes, there is a little blip there. And if you wanted to leave your headband like that, you would have that as your back. Oh, there's another little, oh, no, there you go. And that as your front. And you can have that headband all on its own. However, being Christmas and we're doing baubles or snowballs, we need to make something extra. And what we're going to do is a little band that goes over, and it will actually go over to hide these bits here that don't look perfect. Perfect way to hide it, we're going to make a little band that goes over and then sew it on the back there. So let's do that. So let's put this beautiful blingy bit aside and make our next bit. For this section, leave a long tail so that this is what you're going to be sewing up the join with. And you'll see what I mean when we get to that part. Do a slip knot. And then we will be chaining 7. It needs to be an odd number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Chain an extra 1, and then turn your work, miss that extra 1, and do a row of half double crochet. At the end of that row, chain 1, turn your work, and repeat this 6 more times, and you should have 7 rows. If you have done less rows than the 14 that I did, then you'll need to change the amount of rows that you have here. So whatever amount of rows you did along here, do this section half that amount. So if you did 12 rows, do it 6. Obviously, if you did an odd number, then half of this is going to be 7 rows and the other half will be 6 if you did 13, for example. But for now, if you're doing 14, if you did 14 rows here, this will be 7 rows here. Okay, so let's keep going with that. So I've done row number 1. I need to do another 6 rows. I will meet you back here after I have finished those 6 rows. After you have finished those rows, chain 1, turn your work, and we'll be doing our bauble stitch or snowball stitch. So the first stitch here, always the first and always the last, will be a single crochet. So hook in to the first stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through, grab your yarn and pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, or the only 2 loops on your hook. Next stitch is going to be your bauble stitch or snowball, whatever you want to call it. I think I'll go bauble today. Yarn over, go into that next stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. Yarn over, into the same stitch, grab your yarn, pull it through. Yarn over for a 3rd time, into that stitch again, grab your yarn, pull it through, and this time grab your yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. Next stitch, single crochet. Next stitch, bauble. Yarn over, into that next stitch, grab a yarn, pull it through. Now pull up a little bit so you've got room to get your hook through. Yarn over, go into that stitch again, grab a yarn, pull it through. And for the third time, yarn over into that stitch again, grab a yarn, pull it through, and grab a yarn and pull through all the loops on the hook. So leaving those loops loose on your hook makes it easier to pull the yarn through. Next stitch, single crochet, next stitch, a bauble. 1, 2, 3, grab a yarn, pull through all on the hook. And last stitch, single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, and you'll see you have 3 baubles. Now this row is going to be your half double crochet row. So you'll do your 7 stitches all the way along, half double crochet. Then you chain 1, turn your work, and we're doing another bauble stitch. So first stitch is always going to be a single crochet. Next stitch, bauble, 1, 2, 3, and then through all the loops on your hook. See what happens if you don't pull it up? You have to do it again. So 1, 2, 3, through all of them. Single crochet. 1, 2, 3, through all. Single crochet. 1, 2, 3, through all, and single crochet. Chain 1, turn your work, and there you can see you've got your baubles. We need to do this, because I've done 14 rows, need to do this 7 times. But do check. So when you're checking, you check by placing your baubles at the edge of your work, and then just keep working up until you've got enough baubles so the last row of baubles go to the end of the work here. Could be 7, could be less. It depends on your tension and how you're working it. So I'm going to work a number of rows. We'll see if I do 7 rows of baubles, and I will meet you back here when you're on your last row of baubles. So just remember, it's a row of half double crochet. So my next row now is going to be half double crochet followed by a line of baubles. Okay, so after I finished my strip there, I ended up only needing to do 6 rows of baubles. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it fits nicely along that front there. So this is why it's important that you measure as you're going along. Now I'm going to finish up with half double crochets, 6 rows of half double crochet. We'll see how that goes, and if that's enough, I'll stop there. If I have too many rows, I'll do less. If I have not enough, I'll do more. But next row, chain 1, turn your work, and continue your half double crochets. As I said, I'm going to do 6 rows. We'll see how we go and see if I need to do any more rows. Okay, there's my little strip done, and I did end up doing only 6 rows for this side. So what I did was I lay my baubles at the front there, tucked these end bits underneath, turn it inside out, and see that they line up. And they do, so I know I've done enough rows. Okay, so now I need to just finish that off by snipping off an end. Just pull that straight through, and there's my little strip that I've done. And now let's sew this up. So there's my front, there is the back. I can tell the back because of the little divoty bits there. You can see there and there. So I want to line this up like so, tuck my ends in, and then we need to flip it inside out. So now what we want to do, where did that tail go? There it is. What we're going to do now is sew this up, but we need to sew it up so we're catching underneath, so it's sewn up underneath as well. Now you have two tails now, should have one at each end, and I generally will sew with one and then top sew just to make it extra tight with the other. Pick an end, put it on your yarn needle, just double checking that I've got it lined up right with my two little bumpy bits there, because I want to hide that. But they're central. I line that over. Now I like working top down, so I'm going to turn this around. And then I'm just going to double check that I've got my baubles lined up. Yep, baubles at each end. It's looking central. And then I need to catch the other end, just catch the top of underneath and sew through. So catch the next stitch, catch just underneath, don't go all the way through, you don't want to see it on the other side, and catch through. I mean, I suppose it doesn't matter because the baubles are covering over it, but don't sew up the baubles as well. So catch, catch, and catch. And keep doing that. All the way down. And I always run my thread weave over it just to make it extra secure. And make sure it's flat because this is going to sit against your forehead. Alright, that's that one done. And then I just grab the other one just to neaten it off, and you know, if it doesn't look perfect or anything, you can sew up little bits, but otherwise I just sew it through just to neaten it off. Drop that off there. Turn it back around the other way. And there we go. You've got your baubles on the front of your headband. And that brings me to the end of the tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed this. I think this looks gorgeous. I love the contrast between the colours. I love the bling, and I love how it's variegated up. I think it looks really pretty and very Christmassy. I hope you have enjoyed the tutorial. If you haven't seen my other headbands, please check them out. I'll leave the links below as well. I've got more Christmas tutorials coming up. Hopefully I will see you then. Please click that like button, share it with everybody, let everybody know what I'm up to. And hopefully I see you here again at the studio very, very soon. Thanks everyone. Bye everyone.